Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar session. We are excited to have you with us today. I'm Zaili, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Before we jump into the agenda and introduce our speakers, I'd like to go over a few important notes. First, today's webinar will be recorded, so if you miss anything, don't worry, you'll be able to access the recording afterward. Feel free to ask questions throughout the session by typing them into the Q&A panel. We'd also love for you to stay until the end of the webinar and provide your feedback through our survey form. Today, our agenda will begin with presentation by our key speaker on accelerating digital transformation for the government. We'll then explore a government case study, followed by a quick poll. We'll wrap up today's webinar with a Q&A session to address any questions you may have. Okay, now I'm excited to introduce our first speaker, Thomas Wiemann from GovStat. Thomas is a senior project manager and IT architect with over 25 years of experience leading major technology initiatives. Thomas has held leadership roles at IBM and T-Systems, where he became known for his expertise in project management, digital transformation, and agile software development. He has successfully managed large, complex programs, consistently driving innovation and efficiency. Beyond corporate work, Thomas also advised the governments of Rwanda on digitalization and led a change management initiative for an NGO in India. Our next speaker is our very own tech and industry expert, Anup Nair. Anup serves as the Director of Global Solutions Engineering and Architecture at Joget. With deep expertise in enterprise digital transformation, he specializes in legacy modernization, ERP solution, RPA, process improvement, and more. Okay, let's kickstart our session. With this, I'd like to invite Thomas to share his insight. Please welcome Thomas.
Hello, and let me share my screen. Give me a moment. Okay. So is the screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, first short remark, not only for IBM and T-Systems, but my current role is I'm working for the German Development Corporation, so GIZ, which you can see here as one of, so in the footer. And this is my support throughout the last 6 years, now together with GIZ and for the Rwandan government, but not only here, for the Rwandan government, for other initiatives like ICGLR as a Pan-African organization and development activities in Ethiopia and so on, but I will share them a little bit later as well. So welcome, and I would like to dive into the topic. First of all, with a broad understanding on what is DPI, what is digital public infrastructure. And imagine yourself like building a city, and in the city you would not only build, I would say, the electricity or the water and so on. You have to build the digital services for the citizen as well. For that one, you would use or you would build this on top of an platform strategy. The same approach which you would use for, I would say, phone companies or for electricity, not to dig more than one cable usually, you would do for digital public infrastructure as well. So you would try as a government at least to build digital platforms which you can reuse and which are interconnected, interoperable, and which would build an overarching network. In our case here, we would even name them interoperable building blocks. The term building blocks will be used very repetitive in this presentation, and I will come to that a little bit later as well. GovStack here is for all this a possible master plan. So there might be several master plans. You might have heard about enterprise architecture, and it's not the first time that enterprise architectures are developed. But GovStack as such is an approach which offers a modular open source framework for scaling citizen-centered services. And it combines not only the technology, but a learning approach and a governance framework on this one as well. And I will look into that one a little bit later as well. GovStack as such was founded 2020 and supported very much by Digital Impact Alliance, by the Ministry of Estonia, the ITU, but specifically by the German Ministry for Development Cooperation. It was built based on the vision that every country in the world should be able to build its own efficient, secure digital government for its citizens based on an enterprise architecture, based on standardized technologies, based on standardized platforms, which are then represented by a digital public infrastructure, which mentioned before. So the GovStack approach provides, in fact, the blueprint for all these implementations and can be used for DPI as much as it could be used for any other platform implementation, even a very localized platform implementation, which we see in other countries as well. GovStack as such is vendor neutral, even though today we are presenting in a session together with Joget. But Joget is on GovMarket. It's collaborating with GovStack. But of course, we are supporting other workflow platforms as well. You will see them when I come to that slide. So the main approach here would be that all these building blocks are interoperable and they are connected via easy mechanisms like REST API in this case or similar based on domain specific or domain agnostic interconnectivity. The domain specific implementation would be done on top of GovStack.
So
GovStack is
Thomas, before
implemented.
we move, right, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
As we have audience also, they would like to know more on what is GovStack's overall role on defining those DPIs. How does GovStack define different standards? How they make sure that these are key DPIs that every country should have? How does that gets defined?
Yeah. Very good question. Thanks. So the role of GovStack is, I would say, in the middle. So in like domain agnostic, as I mentioned, and it is technology agnostic as well. So which means it provides the standards, the implementation standards, the enterprise architecture standard. So which makes it easy to unify the underlying technology. GovStack as such is not implementing DPI. Yeah, so you always have to implement the DPI. After all, you have to implement a platform. But of course, with the help of GovStack, and this is by the way what we did, we came to actual examples with this one and to an actual operationalization with the help of the software we are using here. We were even supporting the implementation of specific building blocks in Rwanda and in the region. So the role of GovStack is, I always say it's like the glue. It combines all these different pieces together. It is a foundation which can be used to structure your work, to communicate, to have the same language, and to bring your whole team or to engage with your whole team on the same, I would say, natural language. Finally, we are using the same, I would say, simplified language. It's not like TOGAF. Yeah, it's not super like archi techie. So it's a little bit more on an abstraction layer, which can be understood by business analysts and government officials. Like it could be picked up by a lot of people, and therefore addresses several layers in the communication. Does it answer the question? So
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you, Thomas. And sorry for interrupting. I'll ask more questions as we move and as I see your slides. Sorry for that.
no, please go ahead. So yeah, I'm waiting for it. So so what you see here are several countries which already implement GovStack. So we have, of course, so with the starting point Estonia, we have that in Ukraine. We have implementation in Rwanda, Senegal, and so on. We have a lot of interested countries which are, I would say, at the gates of further discussion with us. Not to mention, some of the countries where we are in active discussion are not even theirs, like we are now or started the discussion in Uganda on the same topic, so that could be yellow as well. Ethiopia is meanwhile in. Okay, I see. So that was one of the last countries where we started implementation now on some specific use cases. So yeah, overall, so broad, like broad implementation in several countries, not only in Africa, but spread all over the world on this one.
So, Thomas, how does the GovStack principles, or let's say GIZ or ITU as an organization, decide which country to go next? Or is it the other way where countries approach the program and say, hey, we want to conduct this program? And how does it work? If you can just shed some light over there.
Yeah. It has changed over time a little bit. So the last, but the current implementation approach is very simple. The country has to approach the GovStack team, like we have some interest. And based on that one, there's a playbook. We can consult this country with this playbook and support them getting in touch with the right expertise. There's a lot of information already available, which is freely accessible to gain knowledge on GovStack. Nevertheless, there are even some funded initiatives where the GovStack team might look into if there is any support possible. But this is then based on the maturity of the country. It's based on the interest, based on the specific use case, based on the timeline. So, and should be decided then after the first assessments. So it starts with the interest, so with the raised interest of the country to the GovStack team, and then further on with a discussion like how we could pick that up.
Got it.
Okay.
That's a great process. Thank you.
Yeah. So just few slides or few pictures, what you see here from implementations which we did. They are all from implementation and deep dives, like starting Ethiopia. So that's the latest one. We had a workshop this year on a portal for customs, which is a specific use case for the Ethiopian Ministry of Industry. Here we had a workshop with a deep dive on GovStack. We then had a further workshop on accelerating this use case and are now in the pilot phase for this very specific use case to deploy this to production. On Somalia, we had developed like two use cases. One is the high school certificate, and another one is on a different building block, the content management building block. And again, the building blocks will be introduced a little bit later. Yeah. So like on two different technologies, two different, I would say, artifacts, platforms, one with workflow and the other one based on content. In Rwanda, we have supported several building blocks. One is the service platform, services.gov.rw, where we provided now the platform for further service implementation, which will be scaled in Rwanda, and I will share a little bit of that experience a little bit later, because that was one of the bigger initiatives we did. Same on content management, same on dashboards and reporting. So several activities, specifically in the case of Rwanda, where we were able to support as GIZ with the foundation of GovStack, and in the case of workflow, then with the foundation or with the support of Joget. So the pillars of GovStack are the ones you can see here, and they are so the foundation for this one, I would say for most of the topics we talk about, is the GovSpecs pillar. It is a technical documentation which describes every building block on not only an abstraction layer, but even with example APIs to an example API level, which you could use for any tender, which you can use for communication, which you can use for your architects, which you can use for training and even for implementation. You see here building blocks like user interface, scheduling, messaging, and we will see them a little bit deeper a little bit later. So there are a lot of specified building blocks. You find them on the web space or on the website govstack.global, openly accessible. So all this is publicly available, publicly accessible. Everyone who wants to use that can use this out of the box. But of course, it would be helpful to have a support on the GovLearn pillar, where the GovStack team helps the adoption through training, resources, and a bigger community in this environment. And so we are here because meanwhile, is Joget part of that bigger community as well, and supporting in different activities on this one with their not only enterprise approach, but with the community approach they are supporting as well. On GovTest, we provide the ability, or we provide the option for people to play around a little bit with available sandboxes and to prototype some of the use cases in an easy approach. And GovMarket uses then the specifications to assess different tools on compliance with the specification. And here we have, so if you look at tools in the workflow area, so we have Joget Community, we have Joget Enterprise, and we have Camunda, just as examples for just the workflow part. But we have other software like Rapid Pro, and of course X-Road as one of the famous information mediators, or DHIS2 as one of the registries which are in the GovMarket environment as well. For you, as someone who wants to make use of that, GovMarket helps to identify which of the tools comply to the GovStack specification, which can help you to build your government implementation faster than you might have expected that before.
So, Thomas, one question on this slide, right? I mean, under Gov specs, people can go ahead and read the entire specification, how each building blocks are kind of how the building block should be, etc. But I'm more focused on Gov market, and I see there are different tools available. Joget is one of them. We have Mosif for identity. We have Camunda for workflow. You talked about X-Road. So I wanted to understand what are the assessment process or the selection criteria that the GovStack program takes through to make sure these tools kind of come and fit and sit in there, to make sure these are really vetted by GovStack, and these are good tools that governments can use and build their or build, let's say, different e-services with different modules. How do you do the selection criteria?
Yeah. So very similar to the country approach. So as a vendor, you have to show your interest, yeah, so to be listed. And after this, there is a selection and vetting process where experts from the GovStack team, architects from the GovStack team, will then assess these tools against, I would say, the self-documentation. Yeah, so it starts with you raise this, you document everything, you answer a lot of questions, and then an architect would assess your questions. So that's the very first step. Would assess all the information which was provided against against the general specification. And then there would be an assessment against the GovStack specification. And therefore, you can register yourself as a vendor for specific building blocks. So I think in the case of Joget, that was done for the workflow and for the registries building block. It might have been even done for the UI, but that was not finished, I think. So that's still an open thing. So for these two building blocks, there was a registration in the Gov market. So it goes through a specified process with an assessment by experts from the GovStack team.
Got it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I just wanted to make sure the audience we have, they also understand that there is a rigorous process which every platform has go through before they are listed into the Gov market.
Yeah. It's not like you just put yourself in and then it's done. Nope. There's a process behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to add, right, when we did our registration, it took almost 3 to 4 months time where we were constantly answering a lot of questions, proving ourselves, yes, we were part of the workflow, we are part of registry UI, as you rightly said, we had to constantly make sure we answer all the questions that were asked by the GovStack team, and also kind of show some prototyping in order to make sure that it's complied to what the requirements are.
Yeah. So yeah, despite the fact that we see Joget here, so I have to mention again, GovStack as such is vendor agnostic. So we would happily support Camunda as well or other workflow tools if they are registered because this is what GovStack provides. They provide the platform for the specification. We would implement with other tools as well. In our case, I would say per random, we were using Joget, and that's why we are here and can present some use cases with Joget in this environment. Okay. So now finally I can come to the explanation, what is a building block? So building block, so I mentioned this already earlier, is then you see this as a Lego brick and with the different colors. So you have the blue, the yellow, the red, and so on. And these are small components which are, I would say, useless alone. But together, if they are connected and interconnected with each other, then they are very, very powerful, and you can create very nice models with this one. So a building block as such should be reusable, and by definition, it's interoperable. So like the connectors in Lego or so. It could be anything like open source, commercially off the shelf, or freely available, as long as it complies to the specific specification. So that's why we saw the two products from Joget here, the community version and the enterprise version. It should be agnostic to domains. So it should be able to be used across diverse use cases and sectors. So otherwise, it would not support the DPI approach, where we want to talk about platforms which are supporting different domains. In detail, so we have several building blocks meanwhile. I will not refer to all of them, just mentioning some of them so that you have an idea and you might understand what are building blocks we are talking about here. Important ones are like identity, so which is enabling the whole authentication and identification of citizen users of government infrastructure. Workflow, we have, of course, so mention that later. Payment building block is the one which is responsible for whole of government payment activities. We have consent management as a very, very important meanwhile. So the whole topic of data management becomes more and more important. A lot of countries have now data privacy laws. Part of the data privacy laws is usually that you have to manage the consent. We see that the laws are usually there, but consent management, which is like an overarching consent management for really managing the data, is not yet implemented. For this a building block and even implementations or sample implementations for the consent are provided by GovStack. We have messaging, e-signature, registration, and so on and so on. Not to mention content management, which you cannot see here. So like the whole content management for a government should be done on a platform, not with 50 different WordPress instances, maybe together with Joomla, maybe together with hands-on development and static code or whatever you see on this one. So there should be one platform for this one. In our case, and now we drill down more and more into the topic. By the way, I saw you had some questions on this one.
Yeah. So, Thomas, one question here, right? So, I can see that GovStack is like having a future vision, and they are making sure that in let's say next 2 years, what all building blocks or what all new technologies the countries would need for implementing their digital transformation journey. I see most of them listed here. So how do you keep up with the pace of latest technologies coming in, like blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoTs? So when these kind of things come in, how does the building block gets affected? Are there new building blocks that are going to get added in future? Or how do you assess all these and bring those components in?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, there's an architect team, so like a core architect team, or GovStack has a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, with the whole team, and they do assessment of the market. But in general, I would say GovStack is focused on, I would say, core government services. So it is not covering the whole, I would say, worldwide market, I would say, on activities. So it is really focusing on things you have to do when you want to build an infrastructure for your citizen. So it might be the case that some of the technology which is now on the market and you might see everywhere is not completely referenced here in with that detail. So like blockchain as an example. So we don't have a specific building block for blockchain, but we have one for distributed registries. So which is a distributed ledger but since the request from I would say from the governments was not yet that demanding, we don't have yet a specification for this one. So here we have again a decision process, like where we put our effort in. And currently we put our effort in GovSpecs 2.0, where some of the specifications which we did like 2-3 years back are now renewed and will be updated based on the experience we have. So what we see so what you can see here, so these are mostly indeed the building blocks which are relevant to build the government services. We might not need for the government too much blockchain, even though it is sold quite often when you want to do land registries and so on. But that's a very, very specific case. In most of the cases, you will just work with registries. Yeah.
Understood. Thanks, Thomas, for shedding lights there.
Yeah. So in our case, and that's now a little bit the details, I already mentioned that we have registered Joget, Joget has registered on the Gov market on 2 building blocks. One is workflow, one is the digital registries. Workflow as such helps to automate tasks in an automated workflow by digitalizing a whole BPMN workflow. And registries, they you can think about them like added value databases. So these are databases with a schema on top, where you have an abstraction layer so that you do not deal with the database as such, but you deal with only the abstraction layer. Joget as such provides both approaches, workflow and digital registries, not completely BPMN compliant, but enough compliance, I would say, to build already quite complex processes with this software. In the case of Rwanda, we followed a simple, I would say, process. So first we identified the need, and you have to see the whole process. You can see here from step 1 to step 5 took us, because we were the first here in the region, took us nearly 2 years. Nowadays we would be much faster, I would say, and because we did our experience, we did some of the assessments, we know the market much better. Low code has become a much more known part of the actual landscape. So therefore it could be faster for you to go that path, but for us it took like 2 years. So after the identification of the need, we then assessed the local platforms. So we had to see what is already there. In the case of Rwanda, we have already another platform, Irembo, which was in development by public-private partnership. We had to decide, do we want something in addition? Do we go directly to Irembo? What would be a fair share between the 2 platforms? Afterwards, after the decision was done, we should do something. Then we supported during the specification of the Gov specs. So by giving feedback, so part of the Gov spec on workflow was done with the support of the Rwandan team here, which supported from Rwanda Information Society Authority at this time, which is the authority in Rwanda to guide the government on the specific IT implementation. Then we did an assessment on several tools on the market against the specification. And we had 2 winners in this case, or we had in fact like 3 winners, I would say. One was Camunda, another one was Joget Community, and another one was Joget Enterprise. While it is not yet decided if Rwanda will go fully Joget Enterprise or Community. So the focus is currently to use Joget for the building blocks workflow and digital registry, because it supports all these building blocks in a single platform. And in our case, it was quite easy to learn, so it helped a lot, so that we were quite fast in the implementation of specific services. So we could provide very, very fast feedback to our beneficiaries in case they are requesting for a specific workflow. And this is something which was super helpful. Afterwards, after we did several use cases, we then provided hands-on support as part of our GovStack team support here. We helped to roll out several use cases in this one, and we helped to build the actual platform, which is now available on services.gov.rw and will be used for a further implementation and further scaling, with a plan, as far as I remember from Rwanda, to deploy several dozens of services now on this platform strategically. alongside the implementations which will still happen with Irembo as the core government platform for citizen. So I'm running a little bit through because I know I have not that much time. So that's why I will omit your question for the moment. Maybe you can ask one or two later then, because I would like to share a little bit on the quick adoption and scaling and what are the lessons learned on this one. So some of the things are very good. So like the Joget platform as such is easy to learn. One of our approaches was in this process that we gave graduates the task to build a Joget service, to build Joget as a Docker environment, and to build a service on top of that environment in 2 weeks' time with no further support from us. And the ones which were able to do that, with them, we worked further and we invited them to work with us during the operationalization. To our surprise, most of them were able to do that. So, which means the learning experience here in this one and the documentation which is provided for this one is tremendous and helped a lot. So to teach our team members. So currently, as already mentioned, the government is scaling the platform and integrate further services. On the other hand, now since we are scaling, we recognize that we are a little bit victims of our own success. So which means the more users we have on this one, the higher the standards to be set for quality assurance. So we have to set a very rigid quality assurance process to avoid that people mess with the platform. And this is possible. It's all it's not a big deal, I have to say, but it's governance again. And as a developer, I know from experience, a developer does not like governance. They want to code. They want to do something. And this is something where it requires a very strong, I would say, government agency or governance agency. In the case of Rwanda, it is there. So we have RISA, the Rwanda Information Society Authority, which have the authority and they can implement this and they can own this platform and they can establish this process. We have one more learning on this one. You have always to, I would say, assess the bargain between community and enterprise platform. So so the community platform of Joget is great and you can do a lot of things. In most of our implementations, we are using community platform, but you have to be aware that some very nice features and some cool features are not in the community platform. And you have to work around that. And that's extra effort and that can be very, I would say, sometimes a challenging process. In our case, it was always possible. Nevertheless, it is something you need to have in mind when you're implementing. You have to choose between the two platforms carefully. If you're going for enterprise or if you go for community, both have their pros and cons, obviously, on this one. And this is something you have to assess on your own and when you decide for this one. Yeah. So that's so the plan for the future is, of course, further investing in training, then integrating this platform with other platforms, and then more inclusive access for a bigger and scaled team while maintaining the technical standards. And I would like to end up with some screenshots from this is how some of our services now look like, at least as a template, what we have implemented. This one is the implementation then from Ethiopia, the input-output coefficient. So you see we have, so can look completely different. So you can adapt the UI as per your needs. In both cases, on all of these cases, it is related with workflow and registry. So we have some workflow behind that. So having said that, so so that's my last slide. But now maybe Anup, you have one or two more questions which I omitted.
No, I think this was great. The only question I had is like it is interconnected. So one is how does ghost I mean when you go to countries, right? Who identifies the use cases within the country? Who say, oh, let's take this up? Is it the country or is there a champion team who does? And the second related question to that is once you get into a prototyping phase as GovStack, who does the larger implementation? Who takes over? Who owns it? Who drives it? If you can give us a full journey, that would be helpful because I see in Rwanda you have done great job, and as you rightly said, they are using Joget since almost 2+ years now, and there are many services live. So I would like you to shed few lights on the entire process, starting from identification, prototyping to the full delivery.
Yeah. So it's different approaches. Yeah. So like in Ethiopia, the team, as an example, came with the idea of a use case. They wanted GovStack to support them in the implementation of a use case, and they did not have time for that one. So we said, okay, if you want something fast, this is what we can propose. Are you fine with that? Okay, so let's do this. Very similar in the case of the results-based financing. I know you have some slides on this one. So where we had so we were asked, okay, we want to have a workflow tool for results-based financing for refugees. Can we do this quite fast? So we were approached. In Rwanda, so like in the bigger initiatives, it worked a little bit differently. We were identifying use cases with a more structured approach with together with the chief digitalization officers, which are representatives in Rwanda by the Ministry of ICT or by RISA in the specific ministries like agriculture and so on. So they know what is requested there, what is required there. And based on that one, we identified the first use cases. And as always, the start is the hardest. So we had, in the first place, we had to find some very good use cases. We did this as an example with the tree plantation tracker together with the Ministry of, not Minagri, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, where there was a tracking of the plantations for trees. So they helped us very much because they were very eager to have a solution very fast, and we were able to support that. And with this example, then we were able to sell this because you need to show something. You need to actually, so just on paper, it does not help. So you have to show it's really working. After this, so then we supported from GovStack by doing a lot of trainings. So the graduates I was just mentioning about, so we trained them so that they were able to implement further use cases. And nowadays, it is like this that RISA picked up on their own. So now it's like we trained the trainers. So now the next development steps are happening completely independent from us. So just in the background, people are trained, people are working on the system, people are now developing new use cases on this one without our support on this one. So now it is already in the scaling moment. But it takes time to, I would say, for a structured approach. And of course, it requires, I would say, people who come from the beneficiary side. So this is always, so you cannot push that in. You cannot say, oh, that might be a nice use case. Do you want to implement it? Yeah, so you might have ideas and you might showcase something, but if there is no need to implement something, then you will not implement a platform like this. So there has to be a need. And there has to be a scaling problem. Yeah, in the case of Rwanda, we knew, okay, they want to implement 100 services. So they have a scaling problem. You cannot implement 100 services with the same custom build or custom development, which you usually do. It's not
Right.
possible.
Yeah, I think that's very insightful, Thomas, and we hear you and we understand, yes, there are many other governments who kind of face similar challenges. And this is where the partnership between GovStack and Joget helps them accelerate the journey.
Yeah, so far, then I would hand over to you. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
think, okay.
Great. So, as we were talking about scaling digital transformation, here we are to talk about how Joget can help and what all are the main pillars where Joget can probably help and understand how we as a Joget and GovStack bring everything together. So, as you already highlighted that we are one of the certified providers within your gov market. So yes, Joget has been widely adopted by many countries. You already spoke about Rwanda. We saw in Ethiopia. When you brought up the presentation, I saw myself and few of our team members. We were in Nairobi doing use cases for Somalia, helping them. So we have even touched other countries like Mauritania, Lesotho, PNG. So there are many who are adopting the Joget slowly, and they are making sure that there are use cases that are being rolled that are rolled out in phases, but it's been rolled out in countrywide initiatives. Now I would like to tell you how we will be helpful. If I'll just go to the next slide and I'll talk about how Joget helps in transforming. And there are different pillars that we have seen. So one is the faster delivery of digital services, which you also spoke about. It's very easy. The team understood and were able to develop. We are now even coming up with a lot of AI features, so you can even connect to any LLM models with just prompts. You can build those applications. Again, those features are available in enterprise. With just prompts, you can build a skeleton application and then it will be ready for consumption, and then you can further enhance it, take it forward. We are very efficient and with modern architecture. So we also have plugin architecture in case there are any new building blocks that you need to integrate, or if there are any further enhancement that you need to make into the platform. It is easy. You can just build a plugin within Java code and then bring those into the platform. So Joget is not just no code or low code. Joget also supports pro code. The next is more on we are secure, compliant, and we can run on top of any infrastructure. It can run on premise, on physical machines, etc. It can run on virtual machines, VMs. We can run on cloud. Joget can run also on top of Kubernetes containers. So if the government has future vision to kind of go multi-cloud strategy, yes, that's also something which we work with. Again, we are scalable, so we have customers who are running almost 2.5 to 3 million transactions every month just on top of Joget, and they are running Joget countrywide. And these are large telcos who are doing this. So we do have those case studies available on our website. I think at the end there would be a QR where you can scan and check. So these are some of the benefits that we see how the government can take while doing digital transformation. We do have some use case. Thomas, I think you spoke about that, which we can speak about in the next slides that are coming. So the real world use cases. If I can go to the next slide, is the finance, the uh, financing based modules that we created for refugee. I would like you to shed more lights on it because you were closely working with it. You know how it is built. There was a web portal that was built. This was a real life issue. It was hard for every people. I mean, for the government to reach out to individual and assess and check. So you can shed more lights on this use case if possible.
Yes, in this case, it was not just the government. It was together with an NGO, and it was the financing of subsidies for stoves to be sold, again with the support of the GIZ. By the way, this answers one of the questions. So I think there was a question, so like which of the use cases are actually live? The one which I know, which are live for quite a while now already, and that's why I would only mention them because they are stable live for quite a while, is the result-based financing, this one here. And the tree plantation tracker, which was mentioned already as well. So both solutions are live already for quite some time. Yeah, on this one, so there had to be a developed process so that you can sell stoves with a subsidy to households which are entitled for this subsidy. You had to manage the tokens which were provided, and of course a whole selling process like a basket, like an approval, like a check in the background check for eligibility and so on. And all this was mentioned, or this was then managed with a with this application. By the way, answering, so I think you have 2 or 3 slides on how this looks like as well. There was a question like, how long does it take to build that UI or so? If you use a standard UI like what you see here, so where you just simply adjust, so an actual theme, then something what you see here is effort of maybe 1 day. Where you simply use an existing theme and do an overlay and adjust a little bit the elements. So not more than 1 day, I would say, because you would use UI elements which are already given by Joget. In the case of Runner, where we had to develop our own theme, it took longer. From my experience with the CSS, with the guy who knows to develop plugins, Java, who knows CSS very well, and who knows Joget and the whole, I would say, plugin architecture. It's an effort of like 2 to 3 weeks. So in our case, so I mentioned we started with graduates, so we did a lot of training. In our case, it took like 4 months until we had a theme available for as a plugin. So that answers these 2 questions already, which I got.
Yep, thanks, Thomas. I think it was very insightful, and these were some of the key outcomes that gets out of any digital transformation project, and people can probably read it, understand it, and the recording is also available, as Ailey said in the beginning. So we are happy to answer if there are any more questions that are coming in. I saw one where Pari asked that we are increasingly seeing Joget alternatives like N8N providing LLM-powered or LLM-enabled workflow capabilities. Does Joget provide similar capabilities at high level? What is AI capabilities roadmap of Joget that could be relevant for GovStack context? So just to give you a few idea on how and what we have done. So Joget also has an AI capabilities. We also do have AI agent similar to what you spoke about N8N. We also integrate with MCP servers. So there are a lot of AI capabilities that are available. If you wanted to know more, you can reach out to the email ID, which you can see on the screen, and one of our team members can get in touch with you and give you a brief demo. So we are happy to kind of help and answer any further questions if anyone has. So Zayli, I think over to you. We are done. Thanks, Thomas, for your time. It was really insightful, and we really enjoyed this conversation with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're welcome. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you, Thomas, for the presentations. Oh, I think, we have another question. Maybe we could answer this before we end.
Thomas, you want to take it? This is more for GovStack.
Yeah. Any plan for EU implementation of GovStack?
Okay, I did not see the question. So like, what is the question exactly?
It's
Okay. I just tried to find it in the
okay. It's any plan for EU implementation of GovStack?
oh, there are plenty of discussions and initiatives, and sadly to say that as an example, Germany as a government is behind the pack here. So we need to run a little bit faster. So we see that in environments where we have a little bit more of green grass approach, we can develop environments much faster and with a more, I would say, centralized approach than we do in other occasions. So in fact, Europe and countries in Europe, they try to pick up on that approach. There is something like the discussion on um, uh, GovStack adoption to a European stack and a Germany stack and so on. So these discussions are going on, but we are not as far, I would say, as we should be. So what I see is that in here we have advanced much more in the countries where we started from a green grass approach, and we can be much faster. So, but the intentions are there, discussions are there, but it's a big initiative, and as always, like with the European Union, and it will come with a lot of power, but it will take a while.
Okay. Last questions. What recommendations does GovStack has where local governments already has local IT service providers?
Oh, that's not a problem at all. So in our case, this was the case. You can integrate that. So you adapt the whole approach on this one. And again, we are technology agnostic with GovStack. It means whatever is there can fit in. So you do an assessment, you do a blueprint, you look at I would say the pain points, and then you start there where there is a need. In here again, in the case of Runner, there was no need to even do anything on on the approach for identity at that point of time. Meanwhile, there's a big project, identity management project together with the World Bank. But at that point of time, we were able to use whatever was there. So no need. But workflow was not there. So let's focus on this.
And just to add to what Thomas said, right? We also help those local IT teams to get upskilled on Joget if they decided to use the platform. So yeah, we do kind of that sessions as well to make sure they are upskill enabled so that the internal team or the local IT providers can take it up by themselves.
I think there's follow-up questions on Rwanda case. I understand that they are implemented, but for how long they have been in use, and how much data is stored? I believe this one is Joget in Rwanda projects.
I don't get the question. So like so I mentioned the two services which are there. What is now the question?
Okay.
Oh, so yeah, the question, Thomas, they are asking more is on from how long those use cases are live and how much amount of data is stored.
Okay.
In Rwanda,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
how long? I can only say so during the last 2 years. Yeah. So we started that so I would say the results-based financing both should be live for 1 year. So that's my rough estimate. On the amount of data, I cannot say anything. And that's due to the fact that I am not, so GIZ is not, I would say, the provider of the hardware and is not responsible in any case for for running this environment. So we are supporting as GovStack team the whole environment. Here in this case, we already went very, very deep into the implementation, but usually we try to support the whole environment so that after all, the government can take over, because that's the main topic, or the main reason for us to be here. We should support the government so that they can maintain these systems on their own, so that they're not dependent on us. And for that reason, I don't have detailed knowledge about the amount of data held in these systems.
Okay, I think we have that's the last questions. So we've already passed our time. So let me share. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to share some resources. So you can scan the QR code where you can see more of GovStack use cases and also Joget case studies. We have from different industries, including governments as well. Okay. And for further inquiries, you can you can email your questions to info@govstack.global or marketing@joget.com. We will try our best to answer your questions. Okay. Thank you. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Anup, for a very insightful presentation. For everyone, thank you again for joining us. Please keep an eye out for your email, as we will send the recording to you soon. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a great day. Thank you very much.